Hi, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. And we're zooming in and focusing in on a very great and popular viewer question. And that is, how can I get over a relationship with a difficult person? How can I handle this relationship? It is so difficult. And usually the word being controlled, being criticized, being judged, or being lied to, or all of the sundry things that we discussed here on the channel, particularly if this difficult person is narcissistic or psychopathic. Either way, it's going to boil down to one common denominator. This has become difficult. It has become an issue. It has become a priority that needs to be attended to. Even though you don't want to deal with it, you might have to deal with it because it's getting so bad. You're unhappy. You don't like the life that you're living, or you don't like what you're seeing in the people around you, and you don't like what you're seeing within yourself. And you really want things to change, but really trying to find a good foothold to get started and lift yourself up and get motivated and the energy enough to really know how to get through it. And when people ask me this question, I really think it comes down to one of the core concepts that we discussed here on the channel, which is an inner locus of control or an external locus of control. And an external locus of control is generally the problem. And that's why it's so difficult to manage, because if you're trying to manage a relationship with a difficult person, you are dealing with factors that are outside of you and beyond your control. You cannot control what other people do. I remember a great lady told me that one time, and it just kind of sunk in my memory. An external locus of control, which means that other things, objects, situations, people, and difficult people end up controlling you or having a negative impact, a negative influence on you that is not in your best interest. And so an internal locus of control, which means finding value within yourself, and not your shoes, not your furniture, not your car, not your house, but valuing what is inside. That is true internal locus of control, and that is true self-esteem. Pia Melody, Facing Codependence, awesome book. Oftentimes people who have been in relationships with difficult people, people who are controlling, people who have had an undue amount of influence over their life that they are not happy with. In other words, they find that they keep conforming to a person, what they like, what they need, attending to their needs, and going on a sacrifice journey, a martyr journey, that they're not getting what they deserve. They're always trying to help other people, and then eventually that becomes exhaustion, adrenal fatigue, poor, pitiful me, let's throw me a pity party, all of those sundry situations which, whoa, can take you way down into a depression or a deep rest, where you're feeling like you're just totally, things are not how they should be. It is dysfunctional. So, codependence is really an important concept to understand, because, you're becoming dependent then, or trying to become dependent and function on a relationship that has a lot of influences that are out of your control. You cannot control what other people say. You cannot control what other people do. You cannot control how other people, their idiosyncrasies, but you can control yourself and how you value yourself, and not be identified with the devaluation that is oftentimes you feel the recipient of when you're in a relationship with someone who is condescending, looks down on you, talks about you behind your back, but to your face, they're kissing, this, that, and the other thing, or they are pretentious, or there's this real, discrepancy between how they are and what they actually say or do about you behind your back. So this person can split. This is like a true narcissist or psychopath. It's just what they do. And you can't control them, but you can control how you feel about yourself, and you can control the boundary that you erect and then the standard that you hold and you decide and determine who comes in and how you allow them to affect you and what is outside of you, and allowing it to go on its merry little way. And so you for a lot of people, how to handle it is to understand that you might need to learn some tools. So if you have kind of been avoiding dealing with this, got into an avoidance pattern, a procrastination pattern, where you had this little teeny voice that said, I should probably do something, I should probably say something, I should probably change something, whether it's your job, whether it's you've been tolerating the way that this person has been treating you. You might need to learn some confrontation skills, otherwise known as assertiveness. You may need to have some initiative and be assertive and say, no, thank you very much. I am not a doormat. Here's a quarter. Call someone who you can walk on. It's just you might need to confront and be assertive and deliver a very clear message that you will no longer are putting up with this. What are some good ways to confront people? You need to deliver the message, I am no longer accepting your negative treatment. I'm no longer accepting this controlling behavior. I'm no longer being told what to do as an adult. I can do this for myself. Thank you and goodbye. It's time to be able to exercise on shutting the door and creating a boundary, not a wall, which means, some people feel like, oh, well, I just have to put up this wall. No, you need to be assertive and be able to see yourself through and follow through on what you need to do to get the message across and the job done. If you're repeatedly being treated in a manner that you are not happy with, then you need to deliver the message that you are unhappy with this. And if you are shying away from that, scared, afraid of their reaction, afraid they might laugh in your face, will let go of the outcome. You need to have confidence and trust in yourself and get back to that internal locus of control and valuing what is inside, what I call your internal real estate. It's a property, it's a quality of you. You need to take ownership of your emotions. So if you find yourself going down or getting super depressed, getting angry, ready to lose it, don't know, wasting your time, waffling and floundering back and forth, you need to then value yourself and value the time that you have on this planet, on this earth plane. There's really, your time is a gift. So you need to start acknowledging and validating that you have only so many minutes, so many hours, so many years on this life. And if you allow others to rob you of your smile, your happy shoes, you allow others to rob you of your joy, of your attention, rob you of your internal locus of control, you need to really evaluate this and take your emotional balance sheet very, very seriously. You need to look at your attention and your expenditure of energy. How much energy are you wasting being angry at nothing that ever gets resolved? How many kilohertz could you light up? How many light bulbs with all the energy that you've had built up? Could you light up a small town? Could you light up a country? Look at the energy that you are wasting through allowing this person to negatively influence you, and to say, are they really that powerful? Are they really that important? Do they really have that amount of control over me? Is that the case, and is that always going to be? I hope you all said, hell no, I won't go. H to the double L, no. You need to value yourself and have positive self-regard and start getting out of this negative self-bias and then the self-sabotage that oftentimes is like a ricochet or a ripple effect from being in a relationship with a difficult person. Your life is too short, and you might say that, but as cliche, but your time here is too short for you to give it up to this person who is throwing you out of balance, who is throwing you into despair, who's throwing you into controversy, fighting, analysis paralysis. all these different things, and trying to see which side of the score you're going to end up on with this person. Stop the fight, stop the struggle, stop the martyrdom, stop that external locus of control. Really become rigorously honest and take stock and assessment. To what degree are you controlled by things, items, statuses, relationships outside of you? Or do you have an inner direction, an inner compass, an inner vision for your life, and a way for you to see your positive, orderly direction thinking, pod thinking? As I mentioned, when you get into a peaceful state and begin to value yourself, i.e. self-esteem, a lot of people go through this life and they don't learn how to value themselves until a bitter end, or they realize, that maybe their health is being taken away, and they go, uh-oh, this is a wake-up call. Or they get into a serious accident, uh-oh, this really puts your day into perspective. Or you travel to another country and you have a newfound sense of gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most powerful emotions that you can have on this planet. And it's, controlling others, that is not the most powerful. Gratitude is the most powerful. Because oftentimes those people, endure a lot of hardship, who try to control others and exploit others. In other words, take advantage, squeeze them out. All sorts of employers where people are unhappy. They're just, squeezing so much out of their employment. Or it's, there's people in management who are intimidating to them, or these quotas that are inhumane, not able to be attained. The people who taunt you and tease you. I know we have a lot of viewers who have a psychopath at their workplace who is really sort of messing with their mind. Did this happen when they were adult? Did they happen when they were a child? Does it matter? Does it care? Are you responsible for another person's evolution, or are you responsible for your own? At the end of the day, your emotional balance sheet should be, I am important. Despite the messages you have received from others to the contrary, you're not important, you're to this, you're that, you're not enough, you don't stack up, especially to me. I mean, they will deliver that, insinuation. They will insinuate it or speak it clearly to you as if that is going to be a directive for your life, and you're now going to start marching to their turn. Yeah, that's right, I'm not enough. Yeah, that's right, I don't add up. I mean, they're eventually gonna just try to nail that into the coffin in you, and you have to pull out that hammer, yank that nail out. Here you go, have it all back, have a nice day. You need to be assertive and value an internal locus of control, the journey within. I had a kind of a thought last night, which occurred to me. I have a incredible friend who is an artist, and he went to New York, the Big Apple, of course, with Soho and Tribeca, and really that mecca of artist activity, the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art. And he, as well as a fellow painter, work on some really incredible pieces. And he really drew in a lot of elements of the African art. If you go to an African art museum, it's really wonderful. Or if you have like a wing of your local art museum, I would highly recommend you take a trip to your local art institute or art museum or whatever you have, even if you have to travel a little bit of ways, and look at their collection or the traveling collections. And at Indiana University in Bloomington, Illinois, they have a wonderful African art museum, and it looks at like the fetish figures from a lot of the primitive, but very interesting in the art that he kind of had this fusion of sort of very contemporary and modern painterly flair, coupled with this very primitive African art, especially the masks. And they go through, there's a lot of really interesting stuff in that culture of, you can read it, you can look at, Anthony Bourdain and how he travels to the Congo and these awesome places, really incredible footage. But, if you look at some of the African masks, they have a kind of a face that has no expression, and their eyes are generally closed. And he would fuse and kind of incorporate those elements into his art. Big mural pieces, had tons of showings in New York, Soho, Tribeca. And, I always wondered why those masks had the eyes closed. As if like, are you closing your eyes to something? Hear no evil, see no evil. And I never really understood kind of the allure of that, or perhaps what the artistic, assessment or the artistic meaning or valuation of why is that. And I think it's because, very much like the Buddha, they're in a mindful meditative stance or expression. And so perhaps that's a message from the primitive earlier people, that it's the journey, it's all about the journey within, and sort of getting into and being able to get into that state where you're in a state of focus and alignment with the divine. You're aligned with the divine. You're really living that internal compass, and you're able to ward off and fend off situations that are not in your best interest, and not be controlled by things that are outside of you. Possessions, statuses, labels, judgment, being being value, placing your value on those things rather than valuing yourself. So it's really looking at the value of human life, and really the miraculous ability. If you look at, some musicians, artists, great architects, just look at the marvel of all the wonderful things that humans can do. Begin to focus on that and think about their internal locus of control, and how, what do you really value in people? And then, is it an internal locus of control that they value themselves and therefore value others? The law of correspondence, as within, so without. If you don't have an enemy within, there is no enemy without. A great African proverb. The law of correspondence is back to the Hermetic principles. And I believe, some of the other great texts of Buddhism, correlate to that. And then, of course, Christianity, as on heaven, so on earth. So there's a lot of this for you to understand and look at, and then make a new aha moment or epiphany for yourself to say, is it so difficult, this relationship, because I am trying to live by an external locus of control or external valuation, and valuing and identifying with something outside of myself more so than valuing the ability that I have within, and then the spirit within, the creator within, to create not only works of art, but a good life. People truly do have creative power. You can testify to this in your life. You can testify it in your own life, or, really, if you look back on really great experiences that you've had with others, and where you were creative, or you felt like you were really at your best, at the top of your game, where you were really like firing on all cylinders. What was going on in that moment? Were you a child, a teenager, an adult, where you were really at the top of your game? You're like, this is what life is all about. I'm really utilizing my gifts. I'm really having a ton of fun, or this positive flow of emotions. I feel on top of the world. What is going on with you in that moment? Take a moment to reflect on that here, and really begin to see that most likely you were valuing something within yourself, and you were having an I deserve moment. I am equal to the task. I'm equal to this gift. I deserve it all. And there's a feeling of unlimited self-belief. I believe. And so it's like a culmination. It's a fulfilling of the promise, the fruits of belief. In other words, you've held belief for long enough, and eventually it came to fruition, where you had enough repetition and experience, and you got there. So realize that a good key solution to handling someone who is difficult, someone who has violated your boundaries, etc., violated your standards, treated you in a way you don't deserve to, really tap into that internal locus of control, valuing what's inside yourself. Take time to meditate. Sit under a tree. Begin to just become mindful of things that are positive in life, and being able to become aligned and resonate with that, and turn an eye or two eyes away from the negative and the difficult. Begin to find that internal locus of control, as well as over your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts, your words. Your word is law. Florence Scovel Shinn, the Game of Life and How to Play It, a tiny little book written way back in the day. Would highly recommend you look at her book and read that as well. Thoughts Are Things, William James, or As a Man Thinketh, is his book. As a Man Thinketh, another great book. You need to understand about what it is to be a human being. The other epiphany that I thought about last night when I reflect on why my friend had incorporated so much of this African art and the idea of the African masks, and you can Google them, and why they're just like, their eyes are closed and they just have this very still lack of expression. I think it's a very strong message from the artist or that culture that we are human beings. We are not human doings. We are human beings, not human doings. In other words, you need to get back to valuing that be state. It is okay to be, because then, you can come into alignment and you begin to have the feeling of contentment, of peace, of being on the right path, of being with the right people, what someone might call the right church, the right pew. You're in the right spot. You're as where you should be, and all is well. You don't know how you got there. You don't need to explain it why. You just did. You followed a wind of faith and belief, and by God, you made it. That is a testimony to the power of belief and faith and internal locus of control. And when you can do that, you can realize that there's something bigger moving your life than just you. Once you put your trust and faith in that big, 7th dimensional, 10th dimensional, 17th dimensional designer of life, and you allow yourself to be put into that palm, into that place, and to let that guide you, something bigger than you is guiding you, and you are in a little tiny conversation with it, like, I'm trusting you, I'm allowing you, I'm going to be, despite all the evidence I have to be a human doing from society or this person who told you you are, they've got that chronic or that core shame going on, where they've violated you and you're feeling like you have to identify with the relationship versus identifying with what's right for you. And the big guy, the big creator, the seventh, the one who's working the 17th dimension, who's moving all sorts of things in your favor, including butterflies, birds, whatever it is, who's setting those insights up for you in the gifts of your future. You have to realize and put that trust into that flow and get into the flow. There's a great book written by, I think, a Russian author, looking at the flow state. It's a very interesting state to a lot of scientists. Quantum healing, that is what it's about. These sort of practices, which are evolved, but are so relevant today, and I feel are really good, strong tenets for you to be able to handle some difficult people or situations. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out. Love you.